Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Bauder and Scott MacLeod.
All right. Welcome to the Flagstick Podcast, everybody. I'm Jeff Bauder, he's Scott MacLeod, and we took a week off. We had some things to do.
Sort of.
Yeah, we took a week off.
Took a week off podcasting.
Yeah, we between dealing with a big tournament that we had to run, dealing with the production or the release of a new magazine, print magazine, and dealing with the probably the biggest pain in the behind website down situation that we've dealt with in quite a few years that was not related to a computer virus that was affecting our it was just messy. It was
a busy week.
It was crazy. Yeah. But everything seems to be pretty decent right now, so I think we're okay to do a podcast.
Well, let's give it a whirl.
We got some stuff to talk about, so let's get to it. Podcast brought to you by Golf Prince Edward Island. It's a premier Canadian golf destination boasting the most number of golf courses per capita in the country with 400 fairways closer than you can imagine, top-tiered accommodations, and exquisite culinary experiences. It is the easiest golf vacation you'll ever book, so I don't know, why not book it? golfpei.ca. Make sure you're following us across all of our social media networks, Instagram, X, TikTok, and the Facebook. Please subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And we encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us, click the notification bell, make sure that you don't miss a single episode. Plus, we're starting work on the 2026 rendition of the Flagstick Academy, presented by Castleview Golf Club. So you might want to subscribe so you don't miss that too. All right. Well, what do we want to talk about on this show, Scott? I don't know. Did anything happen in the last week? Any significance? I don't know. There was the PGA Championship. We could talk about that. That was pretty exciting. The Flagstick Open concluded on the weekend as well, and we could probably talk about that too. And what else? Oh yeah, I just signed off on the proofs for the release of the relaunch of Flagstick Golf magazine in print. So I think we might talk about that as well.
Yeah.
That might be enough to cover an hour's worth of podcast time of interesting conversation. So why don't we go with that? We'll go with that. Let's get to it. Front Nine presented by Metcalfe Golf Club and Natural Setting, a pleasant challenge. Now is a great time to think about the season. Game packages for adults, juniors, and families are always available. Be sure to check online for all the 50th anniversary events, specials, and such. Visit metcalfegolf.com. Stay in touch with golf savings. All right. Scotty Matt, your back is feeling better, I hear.
Finally.
Like feeling better. I'm ready to rip at 121 ball speed, or
I don't know about that. I did play 4 holes last night, though. I had a lesson last night, and I went out at good old Smuggler's Glen and played down 1, 2, 4, and 9, and I was actually moving at decent speed and no pain, and so that's really the biggest measure of success more than anything. So not fun. I feel bad for anyone that has to deal with back pain on a regular basis. This was just an acute injury that happened, and unfortunately it's pretty much put me on the shelf for 3 weeks. Did not make it really great, and even starting at our tournament on
especially Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday was a little rough. I was just standing there for 2.5 hours, and obviously getting the players off the tee or whatever. And yeah, I felt like I was 110 years old by the time I was done. But no, it's much better, thank you. And hopefully I can add on to more holes and actually play more official rounds before we get going. And one thing quickly, just going back to the golf PEI thing, and I just want to emphasize for people how quick and convenient their quotes system is. I was chatting with a gentleman online. He was asking or making some inquiries online about Prince Edward Island, and I just jumped in. It wasn't somebody I knew. It's a guy who's down in the States, and a guy you'd probably find interesting because he was into like dirt race car racing. Anyways, the
Nice.
modified stuff. Anyways, he I just saw his post and he was saying he had been in Nova Scotia before and he was planning to go to PEI this year. And I just jumped in and answered a couple of questions for him. And then eventually we got to a point where he's like, yeah, I gotta book this. How far in advance do I have to book this? And then he was asking about some other things because I posted a few photos. He's like, oh, what is that? Where is that? And I said, hey, why don't you just go to the website for golfpei.ca, put it in as far as the quote is concerned, if you want to start with that. But, when it comes to the other aspects of it, as far as restaurants and entertainment, other things that he wanted to do with his wife, I said, the people there, it's live people on the phone. They will answer
Yeah.
your questions and they will sort it out and they will tell you if you have to head up to, Stanley Bridge or Surrey or wherever you need to go. And it's very personal. It's not a corporate type of thing. And he said he did that and he had a great experience. So it just shows you that, the service, the way they have it really works well. And as a result of it, their bookings are through the roof. And yeah, anyways, it's just a real experience as opposed to just, it's nice to just do the ad readout, but it's nice to hear also as well people's real life experience dealing with that.
Very true. Very true indeed.
Yeah.
Um,
What about you?
I
What's going
I
on
had a chance
besides
to
the
get down.
tournament?
Well, no golf for me yet,
Yep.
aside from watching it all weekend. I
Yeah.
did have a chance, not this weekend, but last weekend. I went down
Hmm.
to Archies.
Yep.
Our very very good friend Carol Ann Baxter um, was opening her new TopTracer range. Now,
Cool.
not just like this is spectacular. I mean, I realize for anybody that's not in the Cornwall area or close to the immediate Cornwall area, it's you might not go on a regular basis,
Right. Yeah.
but I will tell you this: if you haven't experienced Top Tracer Range, I know Kevin Haim has been running Top Tracer
Yep.
Range here in Ottawa for quite a while.
Hmm.
But if you're a little closer to the Cornwall area, and you have like honestly, what she's done down there, what she's constructed, a brand new building was
Hmm.
built to basically house a big brand new covered building with the Top Tracer range. They have the aquatic range down there, so you're hitting into the targets in the water and stuff like that. But it's all Top Tracer, so
Hmm.
it's so cool. You can play a complete golf course on the screen
Yep.
right in front of you. You can play little games and stuff, target games and stuff with your buddies.
Hmm.
Um, it's all she's got all the lounge furniture out there.
Mm.
She did such a great
Yeah.
job. Um, I'm sure we have some pictures on flagstick.com, but there
Mm.
will be some in the upcoming magazine as well.
Yeah.
So, just what an extraordinary thing. And the as a grand opening ribbon cutting, went down to do the ribbon cutting and did not
Hmm.
expect that it was going to be like that many people. There was a
Yeah.
massive amount of people there
Yeah.
to watch this. Now, Carol Ann is very, very well respected and
Yes.
loved in the Cornwall community. So it really shouldn't be a surprise, but it was just a surprise to me, like just how many people would be out there and how many
Mm.
and the dignitaries that were out there and stuff. Like it was
Yeah.
it was awesome, just an awesome. And I don't do little mini like grand openings and stuff like that. I go down and see them. I just like, hey, I'm gonna drive
Sure.
down and see. It's Carol Ann. I want to see what she's done there, and
Yeah.
and it was just extraordinary. Loved it. It was fun.
Yeah, I talked to her a couple days afterwards, and I'll just echo exactly what you said. The community really turned out, and that was her emphasis too. When we're having a chat with her, and people can read a little bit more about that in the magazine when it comes out. But she was just really excited about what it meant to the community and how important kind of that is, and I think the community itself in turn is really happy with her investment and trying to make things better and trying to have an overall experience because there's some towns that have had some rough goes economically here and there. So when you can obviously add a nice amenity to the town, and who knows, there's talk of the Great Wolf Lodge coming down there, and there's all sorts of different things. So she's really set herself up for the future, and I know she's got even more plans coming up. So that's cool that you got down there to see that.
Now, we just want to kind of rehash or recap a little bit of the previous podcast we did where we talked about
Yes.
etiquette,
Yeah.
and not just etiquette in when you're playing, like, not
No.
walking across somebody's line. We're talking about golf course etiquette,
Yeah.
respect for the golf course.
Mhm.
Um, Anytime we do a podcast, there's always a little bit of, we're not call it blowback, but feedback from
No,
people
just feedback. Sure.
that may have experienced similar things or don't agree with us or do agree with us. In this particular situation, there were many people
Mhm. Lots of discussions.
that had similar concerns at their clubs
Yep.
that we had sort of outlined. And wondering about the responsibilities for education. Does the responsibility lie with the association, the golf associations? Does it lie with the OVGA? Does it lie with the PGA? Does it lie with the NGCOA? Does it lie with Golf Canada? Does it lie with Golf Ontario? Who's responsible for educating all these golfers, new and
Mhm.
veteran that should know better,
Yep.
on the proper way to treat the golf course that you're on, the proper way to act on the golf course that you're on. I mean, just personally, it's all. I think that even we have a certain
Mhm.
responsibility to educate. We are the media.
Mhm.
We have a platform where we can provide content that educates. And that said, I kind of think that we do.
Mhm.
Maybe we don't do it as often maybe as we should now. Maybe we
No,
should
but
do more,
even doing the podcast that we did is really part of it. Just even
yeah.
making an awareness type thing is super, super important. So, yeah, I agree. We had a lot of feedback, just people asking and various tentacles of it, probably blowing up the subject a little bit even more because we can only talk about it for so much. And, I know I talked to a golfer yesterday who was speaking about, and this is not even just etiquette for the course, this is just etiquette for related to their peers. They happened to be playing into a tournament, and it was an official tournament where things were being timed and there was a pace of play sort of thing going on, and their group was getting behind. And then all of a sudden, they became aware of it. They nudged the other player in their group that was playing really slow and said, "Hey, we should get going," da, 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 knowing that, they were subject to a penalty for the whole group if they didn't. And the person eventually came back to them and said, "Oh, I don't care. I don't care about the penalty." And I was like, "Oh man." And they were asking me, "How do I deal with this situation?" It's like, yeah, you know what? It might get frosty and stuff like that, but this is where, this is another responsibility as far as the referees and officials that are there. And I just said, flag down a referee if you can, let them know what the situation is and let them talk to them. But I thought it was pretty rude that a golfer would all of a sudden say, "I don't care." Well, that's great. You don't care for yourself. But this goes back to that selfishness that we were
Hmm.
talking about. That's great that they don't care that they're going to get a penalty, but not realizing and understanding that it's going to affect the play of the other players. And even though they didn't get a penalty, this person said that, it still affected the rest of the group because they were all of a sudden
Mentally.
mentally they were focused
Yeah.
on the pace of play and making up for this other person, and it didn't help their game. So
That shouldn't happen either. I mean,
it
I don't know if
shouldn't.
that's a rule. I understand that, but if it's clear cut, rules officials are paying attention. If it's clear cut that there's one individual that is
Yeah.
causing the problem in the group, then the whole group should not be penalized for it. You can't
No.
control how fast your playing partners play. You can recommend, you can suggest, you can get in their head, but you
Correct.
can't do anything to speed that up.
No.
So you shouldn't be penalized for it.
No, it definitely has to be the individual that's there. But this is just
But
another
yeah, that's one
example.
example. Yeah, I
Yeah, it
understand
is
that.
an example of, some etiquette issues that do happen out there. And obviously there's a lot more of them. But yeah, the more feedback we get on that, the better. And the more that people are talking about it, the better. And I agree with you. I think it's everybody's responsibility, but everybody's responsibility means we all have to be active
Yes.
in promoting that and dealing with it.
Now, that said, I do believe that if you are putting the majority of the responsibility for this type of thing, the majority of the responsibility has to lie with the course itself. It's their golf course.
Hmm.
It's they have the first
Their
line
business.
of
Yep.
defense. They have the marshals on the course that should be paying attention to those things, and um, I think that that's the first line of defense.
Yeah.
against this kind of thing. It's your
Yeah.
golf course. I mean, you should be more concerned about the number of the filling of the divots, the replacing of the divots, the pitch marks
Hmm.
on the greens. You should be more concerned about that than any of the golf associations.
Yeah.
There's an educational process, yes, but there's a responsibility that lies with the golf course operators to ensure that
Hmm.
there's signs posted, that there's reminders from the in a check-in, that there's reminders from the marshals. So everybody is responsible in some fashion or another for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now listen. We just finished the 14th Flagstick Open, presented by TaylorMade and Levelwear.
Yep.
And you don't think that sometimes I think you've seen it all. We've experienced with this running this tournament, we have experienced different anomalies, different
Hmm.
weather systems, situations that we've had to run the tournament through, that the players have had to play through. It's just been crazy over the last
Yeah.
14 years, absolutely crazy. Um, and we thought when we looked at the weather forecast long range that this year we're looking at going, oh my gosh, Saturday and Sunday looks spectacular, like spectacular weather, no rain, and wow, this is going to be awesome. Yeah, it's the
Well,
Flagstick
sort
Open.
of was.
We just don't get that. Saturday comes along and it's reasonable. Like
Yeah.
temperature wise, isn't
Warm.
super super hot, but it's
Hmm.
warmish.
Hmm.
But then here comes the wind
Hmm.
and the clouds.
Hmm.
And when the wind comes and the clouds come, the temperature starts to drop a little bit. The wind is no longer a nice, warm, soothing wind. It's a
No.
chilling wind.
Hmm.
And we've got players on the golf course that truly were like we were, not really expecting it.
No.
And there were some sprinkles of rain, nothing coming
Yeah,
down hard
nothing.
or anything
Nothing
like that,
crazy.
nothing crazy. But the
Yeah.
wind was like, it
Yeah.
was insane how
I, s-
windy it was on Saturday.
I
Oh
saw a
my
lot of
God.
people go from shorts to rain pants in a hurry. After a while, after they were out there, they were just chilling up. Now, it wasn't freezing like it has been in the past, so it was definitely tolerable. But
No.
it was the wind itself and the
Hmm.
variability of it. A lot
Three
of
clubs in
players.
some situations.
Oh,
Three
easily,
clubs
easily.
easy.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of players were just, it took a little bit longer than normal to play. I
Yes.
was out there after I did the starting and just going and watching some of the groups, and it made it difficult because of pace of play, just because the wind varied by so much. Like standing out
Yeah.
on three, the par three, at Equinel, the wind was up and then it was all of a sudden slowing down. And when you're hitting a shot, it's different when you're hitting a tee shot. It's going to vary in distance anyways. But when you're trying for your precision of your approach, that starts to make it the biggest challenge, just because it was gusting and you could see players have one club in their hand and go back to another and they get ready to hit. And sometimes the wind would die and sometimes it would
Yeah.
increase. And so yeah, it made it a real test as far as the ball striking was concerned. And some players that thought they were ready for the tournament were kind of exposed a little bit, as they said. And
Mm.
these are their words more than anything, that they
Yeah.
just weren't prepared for it from a playability standpoint, being early in the year and maybe not. They've dealt with cold and rain, to start the year, but here was a day they thought they were going to really be able to take advantage of Equinel and maybe tear apart the golf course a little bit. But it proved that wasn't so easy, except
Well, at
for
least not for the
one
majority of
player.
the field. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
okay, so
exactly.
here's the thing. The field, there's 120 players in the field.
Yeah.
Some of the in our A division and even spilling down into our B division a bit. We're talking some of the top amateurs
Hmm.
from this region and beyond.
Yes, for sure.
It is a very high quality field.
Yeah, we had
Um,
players from as far as Calgary, so.
um, there were some regulars missing this year. Our defending
Hmm.
champion Ellis Kennard couldn't make it. Hayden Turcotte. Some of the guys had college graduation in the
Hayden
U.S. schools.
Underhill.
So we understand that. We know that we understand that your priorities are screwed up and that you really should have been at the Flagstick Open. But
They wanted to
hey,
be
you
there.
do you. That said,
Yeah.
when we talk about the wind, and which just makes what Brendan Kuffner did. Now, Brendan Kuffner of Royal Ottawa,
Yep.
he ended up winning
Hmm.
this edition, the 2026 edition of the Flagstick Open Amateur Championship. But it was the 66 that he shot on Saturday, bogey
Ridiculous.
free 66 that he shot
Yeah.
on Saturday. That
Yeah.
was just tripping everybody up
Oh,
because
totally.
there just was no that weather, that wind, those conditions. You don't shoot bogey free
Yeah.
66s. Like that was just
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah,
And
and you had a prime seat in sitting and scoring because every player were coming in it was coming in and you can relate it how many there were, but I mean I saw it a few times. They came in, they look up on the board and they're like, what course is he playing?
yeah,
Right?
that's exactly it. Because I'm just like I'm doing score after score after score. Guys are sitting down going, "Oh my God, that was brutal. What
Yeah.
a day that was. Oh my gosh, holy crap, that wind is just insane. I'm surprised that it got in the clubhouse. Like just, and then
Yeah.
you keep looking and go, he's going deeper. He's going
Yeah.
deep. Like he still hasn't made a bogey.
Yeah.
And then he finishes. He comes in and he's whipped. You can see that he's
Oh
whipped.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like he just shot a bogey-free 66 at Equinel in the Flagstick Open. Like that just
Yeah.
we've seen 65s and 66s before,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
they were in beautiful conditions with a
Yes.
little bit of
Yes.
wind. This
Yes.
was not.
No.
So
I equated it
unreal.
to because somebody asked me about it and they weren't there and they said, how good was that 66? And I said, I'd call it an equivalent to a 60 or 61, based on the conditions
Hmm.
as far as just the play and going out and seeing his ball striking, like even when he appeared to be in trouble, he would just, knock it back again to like 3, 4 feet and make the putt. And it was just precise, like
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
precise.
Yeah, it
And,
happens. Eh? Like,
the other players in his group were boggled by it. And even though, some of them were playing well, but, some of the other spectators were just like, they couldn't believe the distance control more than anything. And yeah, he was literally just dialed in
he was
and
dialed in, no question. He
yeah,
stayed dialed. Stayed
he
dialed for two
did.
full rounds. Now,
Yeah.
okay, so he backs up with a 70. So he put it under par the second day too.
Yeah.
And he was chased.
He
Hudson
was.
Turcotte,
Yeah.
was close to him and put a
Got within
68 on
one.
the board, but he chased him down and
Hmm.
it came down to basically at that point it came down to Hudson had a birdie putt on 18
Yeah.
and Brendan had an eagle putt on
Yeah.
18. So at that point it was
It
kind
was,
of it was it
yeah.
was pretty much over at that point.
Mhm.
Kuffner made the birdie two putt for birdie and Hudson missed
Yeah.
the birdie. So ended up being a two-shot win.
Yeah.
Ended up 8 under for 2 rounds. Shane Stanley also shot a 68, but he was
Hmm.
unfortunately just
Too far
started too
back.
far back to make
Yeah.
a charge on the lead. But just some good golf. Day
Hmm.
two, was kind of more what you expect from having a few more guys under par
Hmm.
than normal. Stan Hogan, who we known Stan
Oh,
Hogan
that was
for
awesome.
forever. My
Yeah.
God, Stan Hogan
Yeah.
played C flight. He's kind of like been a BC flighter
Yeah.
in the event for a while. Shoots 70.
His
His
age.
age. First time he shot his
Incredible.
age, he shoots 70.
Yeah.
And took C flight. So
He was
it's
so
just
happy.
yeah.
He was so
He was
delighted. And I
jacked
think
right up after that. It
it
was just
was.
amazing. Like,
Yeah, and everybody was happy for him as well. I mean, Stan's such a positive guy, and he's obviously been a longtime competitor in the OVGA, longtime caddy for Graham Gunn, loves golf, and to see him do that
yeah,
and win, that's and nothing to take away from Brendan, but this was definitely the story B, I think,
yeah,
as
yeah,
far as
yeah,
the event was concerned, and
exactly.
him doing that.
So
So yeah.
the golf course. We've got maybe we'll say about 5 minutes here. The golf
Mhm.
course conditions,
Yeah.
the tournament, the conditions, the setup, the feedback from the players. So we're just looking at the statistics of the weekend
Sure.
and looking at sort of like what holes played a big role in the week. Um, Obviously, number one at Equinel always plays a factor. We
Yeah.
do um, split tees, so
Hmm.
on day one, the A's and B's go off of 10, and the C's and D's go off of 1, and then we flip that around on day two. But the psychological impact of the water that the water has with players that have to start on 1.
Yeah.
You find that generally speaking, the players that started on 10, when they get to 1, the water doesn't seem to become as much of a factor to them
No.
mentally because they've already played 9 holes.
Yeah.
So, but when you have to start on 1, and it just psychologically, it's not a long carry from where we set the tees,
No.
but it is an intimidating shot because the wind pushing to the right or the wind pushing to the left a little bit, or
Hmm.
it's into your face, and it just plays with your brain
Yeah.
a little bit. Number two is not a long hole by any means, but it's that there's a birdie opportunity there if you're smart and you play it the right way.
Yeah.
But you've got options. If you're a bomber, you can try to bomb it past the bunkers on the right or the left of the bunker that's sort of situated in the middle. But the smart play, leave it short of the bunker and have the longer iron into that green, which takes away maybe your birdie opportunity a little bit. So, there's what do you want to do? Do you want to go through each hole here?
No, 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 no. I just kind of put it up there in general. I, had a little bit of a preview, but just holes that kind of played a role in it. And I think 7 was the biggest one. I mean, if we look at Brendan Kuffner for an example, he had 1 bogey for the week, and it was on number 7.
Mm-hmm.
And we purposely did some things on Sunday. And let's just say on Sunday the average scoring average for the A players was 3 strokes less than the day before, and obviously a lot of that had to do the win, but 77.4 was the scoring average gross in the A flight on day 2, and 7 was we made a conscious decision to do some things for the setup. Wind had changed around on Sunday. It was just coming straight from the north, so it wasn't a big help or hurt on 7. But 7, we did go back to the back tee, and it's a long par 465 with a green that's sort of a peninsula green that sort of juts into the water. And, we didn't want to make it too easy on these guys. And we clearly didn't. And
No.
what it did, though, was tested their strategy. I talked to a number of players. Some decided with the back right pin, they decided to lay up and then pitch up and then take their chances and eliminate kind of 6 out of the play. Some of them still made their 4s off of that. I know Brendan got in the bunker on the right of the green and had to be very careful with that, because you get down there in that bunker and that crown green is there, and you do not want to all of a sudden clip one and put it in the pond and have to hit that shot all over again. So
Yeah.
it tested them, but on the other side of it, everybody loved 8. You and I had a discussion about it, and we made a decision to take this hole that normally plays 166 and, was causing a lot of strife the day before, a lot of grief, and we knocked it up to 120 yards. And we talked about it when we talked about course designs and stuff like that, about wanting a variety, and having it at 120 with a back left pin, and it made for a fun little hole. Players still had to control their distance. It gave them an opportunity, gave them a little bit of a break after 7, and then 9, which had 8 people up the day before, it wasn't playing as difficult on the Sunday, but it was just those setup things, and players mentioned that to us. The same 14, we set it up at 308. It was a scoring op on a par 4, and they said it was fun. And that was neat. So it was fun, but it was testing. So they had to make some decisions. They had to do a bunch of different things and think about their game. And as a result of it, they also said, it was fair. It let the golfers dictate the scoring, and the course didn't kind of force it upon them, but it didn't just lay down. It provided some tests, but it also provided opportunity. So
I think that the way that that we set the course up, the way that we, it's not unlike other tournaments that that may not actually set the course up based on the day, the conditions, the what you want to try to achieve, that they just ultimately end up going with, okay, we're playing the blue tees today, and that's whatever happens to be. We have our own tee markers. We put out our own tee markers separate from the ones that Equinel use. We set the course up We set the pins. We decide.
Yep.
Now we use traditional Saturday and Sunday
Sure.
pins. Some year we might mix that up, but right now we like the fact that we have traditional
Yep.
pin placements. But we don't have traditional course tee positions.
Right.
We do some things regularly year to year, but we move things around
Yep.
based on the weather that
The
we're
weather.
getting, based on how
Yep.
the course is playing.
Yep.
We decide how the course is going to be played, not the course setup,
Yep.
for whatever happens that morning. So I think that allows us to control a little bit of the narrative when it comes to scoring. Difficulty, the way some holes stretch together. We can make a stretch of holes be very difficult if we want, or we can make a stretch of holes be very easy if we want to encourage scoring a little bit. So that's,
Right.
That's generally how big tournaments do things,
Yep.
So
Exactly.
it works for us, and it seems to work just fine for the players too.
Yeah, based on the feedback, it was great. I mean, we had lots of messages. There was lots of posts on Instagram and so forth. And the cool part is it wasn't just the players who played well, which is traditionally what will happen at a lot of tournaments. There was encouraging messages and positive message from players that were even that didn't play well on the weekend, but they had a great time and they enjoyed the setup. They enjoyed everything. You saw how many people were, after they signed their scorecard, they're immediately, it was thank you for the tournament, thank you for it. And we appreciate those players coming. And the fact that they enjoyed themselves, even if they didn't play their best, says a lot about the tournament.
Now, I
we've
will
got
say
another one
this,
coming.
because I don't want to make it all seem like warm and fuzzies that we do everything great and the decisions we make are awesome. There
Sure.
were a huge chunk of players that did not like what we did on 7. They loved what we did on 8. They did not like 7. So I just want to say we didn't do something that everybody loved and everybody, we're just the greatest course setup people.
No.
It was felt by a lot of people what we did on 7. And some people did not like it, and some people didn't hate it, liked it. Everybody did like what we did on 8, though. So I will say I heard no negativity about 8 whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure we're not perfect when it comes to this stuff. Our decisions don't exactly make everybody happy.
Nor should they.
We're not really here to make you happy anyway.
Go.
So I'm just kidding. We try to appease everybody. Anyway,
But deal with it, people.
Exactly. Love it. It was a great tournament. Awesome. Now, next up for us is the flagstick.com shootout at Smuggler's Glen presented by Cobra Puma. And I'm going to be opening registration for that. Now that our website is back up and functional properly and stable again, I will be opening the registration for the flagstick.com shootout this week. So notifications will go out to all of the players from last year and the players from the Flagstick Open this year. So there you go. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk PGA Championship, and we're going to talk about Flagstick, the print magazine, coming back. All right, stay with us. You're listening to and watching the Flagstick Podcast with Jeff Bauder and Scott MacLeod.
When you golf on Prince Edward Island, there are over 400 fairways closer than you can imagine. Not to mention countless miles of pristine beaches and a rich world-class culinary experience. So get here fast, then take it slow and play around on Island Time. Golf Prince Edward Island.
Well, welcome back to the Flagstick Podcast. I'm Jeff Bauder. He's Scott MacLeod. Just in case you'd forgotten in that short little break that we took.
Sure.
It really is a short little break. Like 30 seconds. Anyway, long enough to replenish the coffee nutrients and prepare myself for the back nine.
You got it.
Which the back nine is presented this week by Falcon Ridge Golf Club. 27 holes, fun and challenging golf at great rates. Falcon Ridge Golf Club is a golfing experience you should not miss. Don't forget that Falcon Ridge has also built the first TrackMan range facility in Eastern Ontario. It's all about exciting, easy-to-use features that provide the ultimate range experience for every golfer at every level. That's practice, games, and virtual golf. So to book your tee times or one of the 10 TrackMan range bays, visit falconridgegolf.ca. All right. So I want to say silently, the 2026 PGA Championship happened on the weekend, and I say silently because I don't think that there's any. I'm not being mean when I say this, but there's no surprise to the mass amount of avid golf enthusiasts out there that the PGA Championship is the fourth of the fourth majors, even though it's the second of the four majors on the calendar.
Know what you're saying.
It doesn't have the same appeal that the Masters, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship have, and frankly, let's be honest, rightfully so. When you think about the other three majors, it's the U.S. Open, the Open Championship, and the Masters. Then you have the PGA Championship. Now, that doesn't take away from some of the PGA Championships of the past that have been extraordinary, played on extraordinary golf courses. But generally speaking, it's not the one that people clamor at to watch if they have to pick one of the four.
Right.
That said, a lot of times major championships and tournaments in general, but major championships especially, really do depend on the golf course that they're playing.
Of course.
It depends on the conditions of that golf course that they're playing. As we just saw, we talked about in the front nine with the Flagstick Open at Equinel. Under perfect course conditions, Equinel can play a lot easier, and the scoring can be significantly lower as a whole, unless you get people shooting 66 in tornadoes.
Right.
But when the course shows teeth, then any golf course is going to be tough. That said, I even forgot, to be honest with you, temporarily that, and part of that's because I got enough other stuff going on this past week that it certainly was not a priority of mine to sit down and watch the PGA Championship, which I did not. And I'm transparent, perfectly honest.
Yeah,
I watched the Masters. I did not watch the PGA Championship.
Yeah,
I will watch the U.S. Open and I will watch the Open Championship. I mean, I'll plan for those things. I had stuff going on this weekend, and this week especially, I didn't have time, and I didn't watch it. So it kind of fell through the cracks. That said, wow.
I mean, really, I had to.
So many cool storylines.
Just like you. Obviously not able to watch a lot of it live. Saw a little bit early on in the week. Took the time, even though I was ready to fall over by Sunday night by the time I got back to Kingston here. But I flipped on a few YouTube things and saw a synopsis, a lot of different things, caught up on everything, saw a few more shots, and I was actually more and more impressed the more I watched, and kind of disappointed that I did kind of miss, because as you said, a lot went on. A lot went on. Like literally, I was hearing. I didn't count it for myself, but I know that Justin Ray, who keeps track of stats and so forth, and feeds a lot of stuff into CBS. I know that Colton Oast, who's doing coverage from CBS, said at one point Justin Ray, whispered in his ear that when Justin Thomas had taken the lead, at that point 14 different players had been in are at least tied for the lead at some point. So that's crazy to think about. That's wild.
Well, and we were talking because, we on the weekend, we were talking when Justin Thomas got it to -5 in the clubhouse.
Yes.
We were kind of thinking like, damn, you know what? -5 might, with the leaderboard the way it is, -5 might be a playoff. Like that might actually be a playoff. He might have just put himself in contention to win a PGA Championship with that round. Yeah. And then everybody's watching, oh my gosh, here comes Rory. Rory's at 4 under, and now we're watching Rory, and then at one point Scotty was, I think, 3 or 4 under. And we're paying so much attention, and Ludwig Oberg was climbing up there, and we're paying so much attention to all these, I'll say, names.
Yes, more well known.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, boom, here comes Ray. And it's
Aaron,
like
Aaron Rai was, I mean, he made that. He wasn't great early on, but then all of a sudden he makes an eagle on 9.
Yeah,
and he sort of goes, okay, he's sort of in the mix, and then his 31 on the back 9. I mean, nobody can say that wasn't exquisite as far as doing it. I mean, shooting 31 on that 9 and doing it under major championship conditions, including the huge putt that he made on 17, which could have
Yeah.
easily been a 3-putt. And, you're not
Well, I
expecting
think people are looking at it that way. At that
Yeah,
point where he was in the leaderboard, it's like, he's looking at 3-putt territory here,
right. Yeah.
and then it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the tough part. I mean, I think people realized quickly that, the test of this golf course was around the greens,
Yeah.
miss greens, trying to get up and down, trying not to 3-putt, because a lot of people were left with, 5 and 6 footers that had a good amount of break to them, which definitely challenged the golfers. And, Rory and a few other players said it on early in the week. It was hard to get separation because in a lot of the cases when you had certain hole locations, you just couldn't fire at it. So you ended up with a lot of, okay, that guy's 20 feet, that guy's 20 feet, they generally 2-putt. So it was hard to separate yourself. And we saw that as far as the field being the way it was. But as a result of it, though, Rye did separate himself because, and I heard an early podcast that Max Homa was on, and he actually picked Aaron Rye because he said, and this was going into Sunday, and he just said, this guy is a fairway killer. He's just steady, and as a result of it, we saw that. If you go back and see the highlights, I mean, he was just unflappable coming down the stretch, and he pulled off some shots that a lot of people were, they were wilting trying to hit those shots, and even having the fortitude on the one hole, which was, a 520 yard par 4, but having the fortitude just to hit 3-wood off the tee and to make sure that he had, an iron in his hand that he could still reach the green, as opposed to, making it feel like he had to hit his, M6 driver that's 9 years old.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this because
so he went out and won it, and I definitely, while he's not the flashiest player in the world, I've had lots of discussions over the years, been fortunate to have some good chats with Andy Proudman and Piers Ward, his coaches, that he's coached them since he was 10 years old. They've been friends. They've known each other for a long time, and they talk about his work ethic, they talk about how steady he is, they talk about how humble he is, and I think everybody saw that in the press conference afterwards. So while he may not be a spectacular winner as the names, as you said, the higher up ones, he certainly showed why he has been a strong player on the DP World Tour and is now a PGA champion.
But you know what? Why are we always looking for the prototypical stereotype winner? I don't want like I look at John Rahm in second. Okay, the last thing that I wanted was John Rahm to win. It's not that I don't like John Rahm as a person, because I don't even know him, but I don't like the attitude that he portrays or has portrayed since he went to live, and the comments about the requirements to get back on DP and like all of this stuff. It doesn't resonate with me. I want an Aaron Rye, and that's the guy that I want to win. A guy that truly seems to accept it. And then I look at. And I would have been, Alex Smalley would have been a good champ. Ludwig Oberg would have been a good champ. And, any of these guys would have been good champions. Aaron Rye is a great champion to have because, of his values, him as a human being. Like that's what you want for your winners. That's what you want for your figureheads and your, the people that you want at the top of your game. Guys, especially like for Scheffler, and
especially for a PGA championship, because it is the PGA, and there's a lot of things that go into that as far as value or values and so forth. And like I said, if people go and if they watch nothing, if they watch the highlights, that's fine, but go and watch his press conference afterwards and the humbleness, the gratitude, he's not bragging. I mean, people used to crap on him all the time because he, had iron covers on his irons and stuff like this. Well, you know what? He had iron covers on his covers because, there was a lot of money that went into his first set of irons when he was a kid, and he put iron covers on them because he wanted to preserve them as far as the shape and the condition of them, because, that meant a lot to him. Right. And he's stuck with a lot of different things. And I think that's something that we don't see a lot these days. We see people, again, as I said, he's been with the same coaches for a long time. He's been with the same team all the time. And, he was very humble afterwards in discussing the parents and his influence of his parents and, his major sponsor that sponsored him all the way up and coming through as a pro, the gratitude to his wife, who's also a professional golfer. I think it was everything that you would hope for. And there was nothing people could really pick apart. They could try as much as they wanted, but they'd make themselves look like fools in trying to, point out any type of fault in his performance or point out any fault in how he acted afterwards.
So now let's stay on the Aaron Rai topic for a second
for sure.
here. Let's talk about Aaron Rai's bag of tricks. Because this is something that I came across, and it is very interesting. When you talk about PGA Tour players, and I'm going to say most, because I don't know how many, but I'm going to say most PGA Tour players, they have equipment deals. They have something. Some equipment company is paying them to put stuff in their bag and play with.
Sure.
It.
Yep.
Now, all those equipment deals are different. So some equipment deals require the player to play the current version of stuff. Some equipment deals don't require it. Depends on how much money they're getting paid and what their contract says. Yep. However, in Aaron Rai's case, he doesn't have an equipment deal. He's not forced by any manufacturer to play any piece of equipment that they require. He has pieced together his own golf bag, his own equipment with his own combinations fit to him, but it's his own sort of makeup. Right. So it's interesting to hear what he actually has in his bag. And it starts right off the bat. His driver uses a TaylorMade M6 driver. Okay.
Yep.
Now, if I remember correctly, I'm not 100% positive on this, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Did Rory not say he wished he still had his M6 in his bag, or was it an M3?
No.
It was one of the M series drivers.
So the M2 was super popular with a lot of the tour players. Justin Rose had one for a long while. So
I know Rory had mentioned it was in a press conference or it was something on the Golf Channel or something like that he kind of wished he still had his M something. And I thought it was an M6, but I could be wrong. Yeah. So it's interesting that Aaron Rai, I mean, since the M6, there's been the Sim, there's been the Carbon, there's been the
Stealth,
Stealth
2,
the Stealth, there's been the Q10,
QI10,
there's been the Q35, there's now the Q40. Yet he chooses to play the M6. He can pick whatever he wants because he doesn't have to pick anything else. But he chooses an M6 and he has an Aldila Synergy Blue shaft, TX shaft in it, which is not. I don't even think that's not a current.
No.
Aldila shaft either. No, I didn't think so. So right off the bat, driver M6 with an Aldila Synergy shaft in it. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, you're way off you're going old school here. Really, technically, it's old school by
7 years
standards. Yep. The fairway wood that he uses is a TaylorMade QI10 with a Fujikura Ventus Blue shaft in it. So. A little more modern shaft, depending on which rendition of it is, because it's not a TR, so I mean, who knows what it could be. But he has a 15 and an 18 degree.
So a couple generations ago.
Yeah. Then he uses a Titleist G2 hybrid.
Yep.
24 degree with a Tenzi CK white shaft, and in his irons. Now, this is what they're TaylorMade P7 TWs. Okay. He uses 5 to 9 iron, dynamic gold tour shafts. Tour issue shafts, which is kind of the only tour issue anything that he has in his bag is the iron shafts. Because even the irons, while there was or is a version of this iron that is a tour level version, this is not apparently. This is not a from the tour what's available to the tour players. He acquired these himself, these irons. Like, this is just crazy. This is how he's pieced together his bag. What I found really cool was when you get down, he has 5 to 9 iron in the TaylorMade P7 TWs, But then he uses, I got to get this right, Titleist Vokey Design SM9 wedges, 44, 50, and actually it's a 49 bent to 50. It's a 49 degree.
Yep.
44, 50, 54 degree wedges. He's got a 44.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then he goes to an SM11 60 degree, all with stock dynamic gold shafts.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
To have, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of guys in the tour that have similar loft makeups, but just very interesting. Then he uses a TaylorMade Spider Tour V putter. Okay.
Yep.
So now we're getting normal.
Sort of.
So now this is where it gets really crazy too. At the very end of it. Okay. Now what ball do you play, Aaron Ray? Well, I use a Titleist Pro V1 2019 edition.
Yep.
This is just story after story with this guy.
Yeah. Like, so two comments. One, I always go back to, a comment that our buddy Brad Fritsch talked about when he was on the PGA Tour. And he was there at a time when there was a lot of big equipment contracts and stuff that were out there. But one of the things that he always said was, if you perform well, you can make more money than the contracts will provide. So you think about Aaron Rai winning $3.69 million this week.
Yeah. He would never have made that.
Well, he wouldn't have had that for a contract. Yeah. So the thing is, it's like, and I think the big lesson here, and I'm not knocking, modern equipment, because certainly today's equipment could fit someone better. But the lesson here to the golf consumer is to find stuff that you can trust that will do what you need to do, and realize that it's the person on the other end of it that makes the biggest difference. And you have to have equipment that's fitted to you and that you trust. Right. And that's what it comes down to. Trust more than anything. If he puts something else in his bag, he's got to learn to trust that and to make sure that during, the biggest moments when the light is shining bright, that it will do what you want it to do, and and understand what it will do for you. And that's what we see with those variations, even in the golf balls. There's certain flight characteristics and different variations, and there are variations that are available to players. They will pick, and I can remember a press conference with a player at it wasn't a press conference. It was like a Titleist thing at the PGA show. And there was a number of tour players there, Lee Westwood, a few other guys at that point. And they were Zach Johnson, and they were talking about playing different years and versions of the ball, because it did exactly what they wanted to do from a flight characteristic stuff. So if it's available to them, why not play it? But as you see, when you go through that golf bag, there's not a matching set, which we see a lot of amateurs. And, from the retail standpoint, people would come in and like, oh, I want to have, if I have TaylorMade woods, I should have TaylorMade irons, and I should have a TaylorMade putter, and whatever. See these are tools. These are tools to do the job. And that's what it amounts to. The problem is, for amateurs, in a lot of cases, ego takes over, and they want to have particular things so that they can show it off to everyone else. But the people that are comfortable and just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to play what I play because I like what I play, that's fine. And the same here, he chose to go rogue and not have a contract, and just said, hey, you know what, I'll have what I trust. And obviously he trusted all the way to a PGA championship.
Well, and that's the thing. And I think the lesson to be learned in here, if people are grasping it, the lesson to be learned in here for the amateurs out there that don't have equipment contracts.
Yes. Yeah.
100% guarantee that you don't have them, or you wouldn't be an amateur. You have full control over everything that goes in your golf bag, from the, including the golf ball that you play and the bag that it goes in. You have full control over all of this stuff. Sure. So make sure that you're picking and choosing. And my God, this stuff is expensive. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. And this is not a knock on the manufacturing industry. It is what it is.
Sure.
Brand new golf equipment is expensive.
Yeah. So
why are you ego picking? Like, I see so much of this. It drives me so crazy. You're ego picking your equipment. Why? Why do it? Like, if I look in someone's bag and all they have is one brand, top to bottom, putter, driver, wedges, hybrids, the whole deal, I know you didn't fit. You didn't
Well,
try
they
everything.
could. Yeah, they
It's
could have. They can still get fit within a manufacturer,
yeah.
but in most cases, I would say what you're saying is, yeah, correct in a lot of cases.
So I mean, if you're going to spend the money anyway,
Hmm.
I mean, why not be pick and choose what you want to
Hmm.
play?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
don't be shy. If there's performance benefit from a particular product, then and it's not available in the other particular brand, don't just choose the brand over the product.
yeah,
Get the product that works for you more than
totally,
anything.
totally.
So I think the other cool thing here, and I think a few people missed out on this one. And I actually had a tweet about it the other day. It was there was a couple of people on some socials that were freaking out and said, "Oh, this is the oldest driver ever used to win a major." No, it's not even close. Go back and look at Jack Nicklaus's bag. I mean, he had the same fairway wood for 30
Yeah,
plus years. So yeah, go back and look at that. Believe me, his driver, his old Tommy Armour driver that he had that was made in the 1950s and he used right to the 86 Masters, it was even older than the one that Aaron Rye did. So at that point, obviously, there wasn't the same level of marketing. Wasn't the changes in equipment and so forth. But really good lessons, though, for people to learn from this is that, just get stuff that you trust. And that's more important than just having the latest.
exactly. Okay. Good PGA Championship. Next up, the U.S. Open. So that'll be exciting.
Should be Shinnecock.
And next up for us, obviously, the flagstick.com shootout. But in the more immediate next up for us is
Yes.
is the return, the much anticipated, very exciting return of Flagstick Golf Magazine in its print form to this region. We this morning I officially signed off on the press proofs for the magazine, so it's now gone on the press to be printed, and delivery will start on Monday, the 25th of that issue, and then we will continue with another edition of it in July and another edition of it in the fall, likely early September. We just thought we'd take a couple minutes just to kind of talk about it because a big learning curve to go. It's like you go backwards, but I feel like going backwards in this case is actually going forwards for us. If that makes any sense to anybody listening, going backwards is going forwards, but going backwards means kind of relearning some of the processes involved with producing a print product. I had to relearn Adobe InDesign a little bit because 5 years has gone by and probably 4 or 5 versions of InDesign has gone through. So I had to kind of relearn it a little bit, though the learning curve didn't take very long. There was a learning curve. Even learning, preparation of photography and images. When you're working with web, you get away with pretty low resolution stuff because screen resolution corrects a lot. You don't get that luxury with print. You run at a certain resolution, and if you run under that resolution, you do run the risk of some blurry photos. So there may be a couple of pictures in this edition that are a little under resolution because we didn't have the right resolution images to do print. But I did the best I could. Production, it kind of fell back into place pretty quickly, Scott, when we, you create the folder on the Google Drive and stories are going up and
I think, a couple of different things. It's like, digital is a different format. I mean, obviously we still doing digital and we have a lot of things that you do, you just immediately write the story, you get it up on the website. There's not really a story limit on digital. You don't really run out as far as the space is concerned.
You do run out.
You do run out. Whereas when we get to print, we obviously have to have a form factor where we're fitting things in. So it's getting comfortable with that again, as far as the sizing, because, people are probably not familiar with it, but, when you go through that pagination process, you're trying to fit things into the size. And, if you're for the writer or the photographer, you're providing images and copy to you, and as the designer, and going through and then fitting into the page. Again, knowing how many pages are in the magazine, how many stories are going to go in there, what's the format, all this stuff has to be planned out far in advance. And this may put some people to sleep or whatever, but
There's the sheet.
But this is the process we have to go through from a print standpoint. So it definitely feels a little bit different. And but on the other side of it,
it's exciting.
People are happy about it. I mean, they're again, it's trying to see where people are with this type of thing, and how do they get their news, and how they get how do they collect info. But I think people are interested in the stories. I think there's some people that obviously cherished having the print magazine kind of back in the day, and like to see it again. I think there's some people that are going to be a combination of the two. There's going to some people that don't care. They'll just continue doing digital stuff, and that's perfectly fine. But we're providing different types of options, and I think there's also a designation as well between obviously it's very easy these days to create social media content. I'm not saying it's not difficult, because believe me, I do it every single day. But there's a different barrier of producing a magazine and going through the process of doing that. And it's a lot more permanent than a lot of the digital stuff is.
Yes, it is.
So there's an authenticity, I think, to it. And, if it was that easy, then a lot more people would be doing it.
No question about that. And there'd be a lot less people in the media industry going back to it.
Probably. Yeah. But it's not because they don't want to. It's just, it's obviously got to be supported as well. And I think the advertisers realize and understand that, there's a real way to get their messages out in print from a marketing perspective that now distinguishes themselves from the digital world, where it can be so fleeting.
It is overwhelming. Inboxes are overwhelmed with emails. I mean, everything that you want nowadays, you have to sign up for. And
true.
You end up getting, you buy something online, you end up getting, emails for this and emails for that, and it's gotten to the point where it's overloading. So we produce really good content for the newsletter, and that's exciting. But this is a different avenue. It's a different medium, and I really think that the timing for the relaunch is perfect. It coincides with our 30th anniversary. And we'll see next Monday when we start dropping at golf courses again, and we'll see what the response is like. But I'm excited about it. I'm excited.
Are you excited?
I'm excited to have it done. I'm excited to have the first one.
We're gonna find you a new word.
I can tell you that.
We gotta get you a synonym for excited.
Yeah, I am. All right. So we'll leave it at that. Look for that. Like I said, registration for the flagstick.com shootout will open this week. And watch for, at your golf course, watch for the return of Flagstick Golf Magazine in print to your golf course next Monday.
Yep.
All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Metcalfe Golf Club, Falcon Ridge Golf Club, and our presenting sponsor, Golf PEI. Golf Prince Edward Island is a premier Canadian golf destination, boasting the most number of golf courses per capita in the country, with over 400 fairways closer than you can imagine. Top-tier accommodations and exquisite culinary experiences is the easiest golf vacation you will ever book. So book one at golfpei.ca. Hopefully you have been enjoying watching and hearing us. Be sure to follow us across all of our social media networks, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And don't forget the YouTube channel. Like us, click the notification bell. Make sure that you never miss a single episode ever. And head over to flagstick.com. More amazing golf content is still delivered to our website, people, every single day. And be sure to subscribe to the Flagstick Digest newsletter, delivered to your inbox 3 days a week, except on weeks where the MacLeod website is structurally completely down. It's back up and running now. But as always, we do appreciate you tuning in. Until next week, I'm Jeff Bauder.
I'm Scott MacLeod.
Always remember, go for the step.